Alpine have been in the sport now ever since the 2021 season. It was Renault who changed their name to Alpine, and everything else changed the same for the most part. The team had a whole rebrand looking to try and make new strides in Formula 1 under Alpine, and so far it has been very hit and miss to say the least. In 2021, they had a drop-off from the year previous, but they did take home a very surprising win with Esteban Ocon in Hungary, and Fernando Alonso would get a podium in Qatar. So it was a solid season to say the least. 2022, with the new regulations, was another step forward, even though they did not get a win or podium like the previous year. They did finish best of the rest in P4, but they had some reliability issues with their car, and they would lose Fernando Alonso. The start of the 2023 season has been far from ideal from the team, as they have looked poor in some parts already, and the Alpine boss is not happy at all. In today's video, we will be talking a bit about this season so far and some of the commitments that he has made recently, how big of a miss Fernando Alonso is to the team, and finally how they should maybe look at other teams and see what is working instead of doing their own thing, such as having a vastly different car design and the only team to use the Renault engine. Let's get right into it. To start off with, we will talk about the reasoning why you clicked on this video, and that is how the Alpine boss Laurent Rossi is not happy with the performance of the team this season so far. As it stands, before we go into the Monaco Grand Prix, Alpine sit on 14 points in P6 in the standings, level on points with McLaren. Now, when you think about the start of the season that McLaren has had, that is pretty embarrassing for a team with high ambitions of winning a championship very soon. The performances have been very hit and miss. Some of the bad performances have been their own fault with how poor the car has been, but they've been unlucky, such as in Bahrain when Ocon was given penalties non-stop, it felt. Rossi has had some very strong comments on the team, like this year ended up starting with a flawed performance and flawed delivery. It is obvious that our position in the standings is not worthy the resources we spend, and we are quite far, in fact very far, from this year's end goal. These comments are very extreme, especially when he's talking about his own team. He is being very true and is saying what he really is thinking and not holding back one little bit. He wants the best for the team, and he's just not seeing that right now, and he wants these comments to kind of be a wake-up call to the team so they can pick up their performances. To be level on points with McLaren as we speak, considering how everyone was saying that they could finish bottom of the standings, is kind of embarrassing. Alpine this season, at the very best, this season can finish P5 in the standings due to Aston Martin joining Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes in being above the rest of the teams. This is a step back from last year from finishing P4, so even if Alpine go on to have a good rest of the season, it's not an improvement and a step forward. They should probably be where Aston Martin is, as they have had more experience in the team, but also have a lot of money too, and it should be doing much better than what they are doing right now. Rossi also said you're allowed to make mistakes. It's a basic principle. You can learn from your mistakes, but you need to learn. And when you make the same mistakes twice, it means you haven't learned and you're not taking responsibility. That is not acceptable. Now, once again, Rossi is just not happy with how the team are, maybe not looking back at last year and making the right changes for them to become a force this year. The car in 2022 and the car this year both look the same, and the performances is very similar. And maybe Rossi is saying how the team have got somewhat complacent. Overall, these comments are not a good look for the team, but they could be used as motivation for them to build on and perform better. I guess we'll have to wait and see if they have worked in the coming races. Our next topic is about how the loss of Fernando Alonso could have helped Alpine more than many people may think. Alonso surprised everyone by joining Aston Martin, which many people thought was a bad decision, but as we all know by now, it worked out pretty damn well. They replaced him with another top driver in a young and hungry Pierre Gasly, who many people thought and still think is a very good move for Alpine. However, losing Fernando Alonso is huge, and he probably is a better driver than Gasly in terms of pace, but that is not what may be hurting Alpine this season. Alonso could have got more points than both Ocon and Gasly have got so far, but behind the scenes is where the loss really does show. Due to Alonso being such an experienced driver, he can help the team a lot when it comes to developing the car, for example. He can provide feedback that will be mega useful as he has seen it all in the sport and knows what works well and what doesn't. He also brings a lot of leadership with him, as we've seen with Aston Martin this year, as he helps his teammate even whilst the race is going on. To lose someone like that so abruptly will definitely still be hurting Alpine. They thought it was a bad move for him, but now they look silly, as it may be one of the best moves in the history of the sport. Alpine now have two fairly young drivers in Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly. Whilst they do have a lot of potential, they do not have the knowledge and the wisdom that Fernando Alonso will have. Overall, the loss of Alonso is a painful one for the team, and they look like they are missing him a lot so far this season. But there is plenty of time for Gasly or Ocon to step up, be that leader that the team needs right now for the most part. Do you think that Alpine is feeling the effects of Alonso not being in the team anymore? Let us know what you think in the comments below. On to our final topic of the video is how Alpine may have to change its whole philosophy on how they do things. A lot of the teams in the paddock are looking at the Red Bull car and kind of copying them, as it is clearly the quickest car on the grid. Alpine, however, seems to be going for a completely different path from everyone else, and they are now just kind of doing their own thing right now. They are the only team to have the Renault engine in the back of the cars, which could be a good thing, also says a lot as nobody wants to use them. Alpine is Renault, so they will not drop the Renault engine all of a sudden and go for a Ferrari engine, for example. But one thing that could change is how they look compared to everyone else. Alpine have a very odd approach to everyone else, and this could be a reason why they have not been performing as well as they should be. Even Mercedes are looking to go the Red Bull side pod approach. So why should Alpine not just try the same thing, as it has worked in the past already? Look at Aston Martin. Many people call it the green Red Bull, but it works, and they're not getting penalties for it. Maybe Alpine should look at Aston Martin, who has taken that big jump recently, and try and copy the top team and make it their own. But they do seem quite stubborn to the fact that they want to be different, which is kind of good, but it also means they will fall back down the order if they do not try what is working for everyone else nearly. We'll just have to wait and see how in the coming months pan out for Alpine, as their boss is clearly not impressed, so they have to step up their performances before something drastic does happen. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like this one.